In a world ruled by power, they didn't just survive, they conquered. From queens to warriors, these women shaped the fate of Game of Thrones, but years later, what happened to the cast? Let's find out! Number 1. Peter Dinklage as Tyrion Lannister. There are characters who do not need to wield a sword to make an entire dynasty kneel, and Tyrion in Season 4 is exactly that kind of earthquake. In 2014, Peter Dinklage turned 45, carrying eyes as sharp as blades into the most blazing phase of his acting career. By 2026, he is 56 years old, still a living monument of the series. This season begins with Joffrey's wedding, where Tyrion is publicly humiliated before the court. Then everything explodes when the king dyes purple right at the banquet table and he is pushed into becoming the scapegoat. From the damp dungeon to the historic trial, Tyrion gradually transforms his defense into an indictment against all of King's Landing, peaking in the confession that he wants to see them all dead. Oberyn's battle with the Mountain appears like a ray of hope and then vanishes in horror, pushing Tyrion toward the final decision. Freed from prison by Jaime, quietly walking through the tunnel, confronting Shae in his father's bed, tightening the chain around her throat until she can no longer breathe, then shooting Tywin with a crossbow in the privy, a cinematic moment that created the legend of Season 4. The role stands out because every political climax revolves around him, from injustice, betrayal, to liberation. In real life, Peter continued to rise with Emmy Awards, film, and theater, almost completely avoiding major scandals, known only for his admirably private marriage with Erica Schmidt. By 2026, he remains highly active, and every time audiences remember that crossbow, Tyrion in Season 4 still feels like thunder that has never truly ended. Number 2. Kit Harington as Jon Snow amid the ice-covered darkness. Jon Snow in Season 4 is no longer the outcast boy, but becomes the living wall standing between humanity and the apocalypse. During filming in 2014, Kit Harington was 27 years old. In 2026, he is 39, more mature, yet that lonely gaze remains unchanged. After returning from beyond the wall, Jon is suspected, interrogated, then forced to use his own experience with the wildlings to warn the Night's Watch about the storm of Mance Rayder that is approaching. He witnesses the deaths of his brothers, loses Ygritte in his arms in the middle of battle, then rises to lead in Watchers on the Wall. From dividing forces, defending the gate, commanding the archers, to personally charging into the battlefield fighting through fire and ice. When the battle ends unfinished, Jon walks alone into Mance's camp with the intention of assassination, accepting death as part of duty. Before Stannis arrives and changes the entire situation, the role explodes because Kit transforms Jon from a symbol of honor into a true leader, a man carrying the fear of the entire North. After the show, his real life had more drama than his calm appearance suggests. His romance with Rose Leslie became a beautiful marriage, but he also openly faced post-series psychological pressure and a period of rehabilitation after the final season. By 2026, Kit continues steadily with high-quality television and theater. Jon Snow in Season 4 therefore remains the memory of a man standing alone on the wall, watching the darkness approach without taking even half a step back. Number 3. Emilia Clarke as Daenerys Targaryen. Not every fire burns everything down. Some flames force a person to learn how to become a queen, and Daenerys in Season 4 is exactly that trial. In 2014, Emilia Clarke was 27, in the most beautiful era of the role. By 2026, she is 39, still the face carrying an irreplaceable royal aura. This season, Daenerys is no longer only a conqueror. After entering Meereen, she witnesses crucified slave children lining the road and responds with a ruthless assault, liberating the city to the cries of Misa. But victory is only the beginning. Every stage afterward becomes a bitter lesson in ruling, executing a master, listening to the common people, confronting Hisdar, opening the crypt for a father who wants to bury his child, and most painfully, deciding to chain 2 of her dragons because one child was burned alive. It is the moment of closing that dark cellar door that transforms her from a symbol of freedom into a ruler who understands the price of power. The role stands out because Season 4 is the psychological turning point. Daenerys understands for the first time that sitting on the throne is harder than taking it in real life. Emilia has a behind-the-scenes story richer in drama than the show itself. 2 dangerous brain aneurysms nearly took her life during the Game of Thrones years, followed by an inspiring recovery journey and a career that continued to bloom in Hollywood and Marvel. By 2026, she remains highly active, elegant, and full of resilience. Looking back at Season 4, what lingers is not only dragons and fire, but the gaze of a queen learning for the first time what the price of mercy truly means. Number 4. Lena Headey as Cersei Lannister. There are queens who do not need to wear a crown to make the entire capital tremble. And Cersei in Season 4 is the coldest embodiment of power. In 2014, Lena Headey was 41 years old. By 2026, she is 52, and that steel-like presence has not faded at all. This season begins with a mother's nightmare as Cersei watches Joffrey die in agony right before her eyes. A moment that turns all her calculations into a frenzy of vengeance. At every stage afterward, Cersei pours all her strength into forcing Tyrion toward execution, manipulating testimony, and using Shae as the final knife in the trial to crush her brother completely. At the same time, she confronts Tywin over the forced political marriage, struggles with Jaime as the distance after the war grows larger, and continues to keep King's Landing from collapse through fear and cunning. It is the combination of personal grief and royal ambition that makes her Season 4 role so fierce. Every major event from the Purple Wedding to Tyrion's trial revolves around Cersei's decisions. After the show, Lena continued to leave her mark in film, voice acting, and producing, while her real life also carried plenty of drama with her divorce from Petyr Logren, drawing major attention before she remarried Mark Menchaca. By 2026, she remains steadily active, a symbol of the kind of villain audiences both fear and adore. Looking back at Season 4, Cersei is still that silent stare standing in the middle of her son's funeral, where pain has become the most dangerous kind of power in this world. Number 5. Sophie Turner as Sansa Stark. From a dreamy girl in silk gowns, Sansa in Season 4 steps into darkness like the final chess piece that has learned how to move on its own. In 2014, Sophie Turner was only 18 years old. By 2026, she is 30, radiantly mature in both career and personal life. The season opens with the fateful Purple Wedding, where Sansa stands frozen in the chaos before Littlefinger secretly helps her escape King's Landing. The journey by ship, through the Vale, and into the Eyrie becomes layer upon layer of growth. She witnesses Lysa Arryn's madness driven by jealousy, is forced into Robin's orbit, then sees Littlefinger push Lysa through the moon door with her own eyes. Sansa's climax lies not in swords or blood, but in the moment she walks down the staircase in a black dress with darkened hair, for the first time actively lying to protect Littlefinger and also to save herself. That is the moment Sansa truly enters the Game of Thrones. The role stands out because Season 4 marks her complete transformation from victim into political player. After the series, Sophie continued breaking through with X-Men, Joan, and many major projects. The biggest real-life drama was her marriage and highly public divorce from Joe Jonas, followed by a custody dispute that filled the media. By 2026, she remains one of the most successful stars to emerge after Game of Thrones. The most beautiful memory of Sansa this season is always that slow walk in the black dress, when a girl finally learned how to become the darkness. Number 6. Maisie Williams as Arya Stark. If Season 4 has one journey with the rhythm of a blood-soaked road movie, it is Arya and the Hound. In 2014, Maisie Williams was 17 years old. By 2026, she is 28, still carrying the sharp edge that defined Arya Stark. After escaping the Riverlands, Arya enters a brutal journey alongside Sandor Clegane, where every stop adds another layer of hardness. She coldly watches the Hound kill Polliver to reclaim Needle, recites her death list every night, crosses taverns filled with corpses, and learns to survive through her own rage. At every stage, Arya shifts from a fleeing child into someone beginning to control fear itself, from not blinking at slaughter to the moment she watches Brienne fight the Hound on the cliffside. The cinematic peak arrives when Arya leaves Sandor dying, refusing him an easy death, then quietly boards the ship to Braavos with the Valor Morghulis coin. The role stands out because of its subtle psychological evolution. Arya is not only surviving, she is slowly becoming a storm of vengeance. After the show, Maisie explored film, fashion, creative startups, and personal art projects. Her private life remains fairly quiet, with no major scandals, though she has openly shared the psychological pressure of becoming famous too early. By 2026, she remains one of the most distinctive faces of her generation of young British actors. What remains after Season 4 is Arya's silhouette turning her back on a dying man a small step. But the moment her childhood disappeared forever. Number 7. Nikolaj Coster-Waldau as Jaime Lannister. There are warriors who lose a hand only to find their soul, and Jaime in Season 4 is the most beautiful journey of rebirths. In 2014, Nikolaj Coster-Waldau was 43 years old. By 2026, he is 55, still carrying the elegant presence of the once legendary Kingslayer. The season opens with Jaime returning to King's Landing with his prosthetic hand, no longer the undefeated legend, but a man learning how to live with humiliation. Every chapter of his Tyrion's story is tied to fractures in all his relationships, trying to reconnect with Cersei but receiving only cold distance, standing before Tywin as the last son unwilling to bow, then quietly protecting Tyrion when the whole court wants his brother dead. The emotional climax comes at the end of the season, when Jaime silently opens the prison door, gives Tyrion the chance to live, and sends him away into the darkness, an act that redeems both his past and his conscience. The role stands out because this is Jaime's strongest season of inner growth, from an arrogant man into someone who chooses family over reputation. In real life, Nikolaj continued succeeding with international cinema, historical projects, and humanitarian work with the United Nations, while his private life remains peaceful with his enduring marriage to Nukaka since 1997. By 2026, he is still highly active in European television and Hollywood. Looking back at season 4, Jaime remains the figure standing silently before the opened prison door where a knight who lost his hand finally found his honor again. Number 8. Charles Dance as Tywin Lannister without ever raising his voice. Tywin in season 4 is still the man who can make all of Westeros fall silent with a single look. In 2014, Charles Dance was 68 years old. By 2026, he is 79. Still an icon of authority in British stage and film, this season, Tywin appears as the supreme mind of King's Landing, controlling every chess piece after Joffrey's death. At every stage, he orchestrates Tyrion's trial with absolute coldness, forces Jaime to abandon the White Cloak to continue the bloodline, arranges a political marriage for Cersei, and always places the Lannister legacy above family blood. What makes Tywin stand out is not only power, but the terrifying certainty in every decision. From the hand of the king's seat, he feels like the man rewriting the fate of the entire court. But cinema reaches its peak in the final scene, when Tyrion appears from the darkness, discovers Shae in his father's bed, then confronts Tywin in the privy. The 2 bolts from the crossbow do not merely kill a man, they bring down the greatest pillar of power in season 4. After Game of Thrones, Charles Dance continued to thrive with The Crown, Godzilla, King of the Monsters, Alien, and Shakespearean theater. His real life also drew attention with a divorce after more than 3 decades of marriage and a new age gap relationship that sparked media discussion. By 2026, he remains one of the most respected veteran actors alive. The lasting memory is Tywin sitting in golden candlelight, never knowing the dynasty he built is about to end with the dry snap of a crossbow string. Number 9. Aidan Gillen as Petyr Littlefinger Baelish. If season 4 is a chessboard, Littlefinger is the invisible hand flipping every piece before anyone notices. In 2014, Aidan Gillen was 45 years old. By 2026, he is 57, still carrying the sinister voice that defined Petyr Baelish. After the Purple Wedding, he is the one who secretly takes Sansa away from King's Landing, opening the Poisonous Veil storyline. At every stage, Littlefinger plays both savior and spider, leading Sansa across the sea, manipulating Lysa Arryn through obsessive love. Then at the peak of the Eyrie, suddenly pushing Lysa herself through the moon door in one of the most chilling scenes of the season. But his greatest move is the moment he convinces Sansa to lie before the Lords of the Vale, transforming her from victim into strategic ally. The role stands out because Littlefinger this season almost controls the future of the North through words and touches as light as wind. In real life, Aidan Gillen continued steadily with Peaky Blinders, Mayor of Kingstown, and Irish cinema. His private life is fairly quiet, with the biggest drama being his split from Olivia O'Flanagan before his long-term relationship with Camille O'Sullivan. By 2026, he remains a beloved face for cunning and unpredictable roles. Looking back at season 4, Littlefinger is still that fleeting smile beside the moon door so light that no one realizes a life and an entire kingdom have just changed hands. Number 10. Jack Gleeson as Joffrey Baratheon. There are characters who do not appear for long yet still change the fate of an entire season, and Joffrey in season 4 is the explosion that begins every tragedy afterward. In 2014, Jack Gleeson was 21 years old. By 2026, he is 33, still remembered as one of the most hated villains in television history. The season opens with his lavish wedding to Marjorie, where Joffrey continues humiliating Tyrion with every cruel joke, until the moment he chokes, turns purple, and dies before the entire court. Those few short minutes create the chain reaction for the whole season. Tyrion is condemned, Cersei descends into hatred, Tywin consolidates power, and King's Landing sinks into chaos. The role role stands out because Joffrey's death is the opening gunshot for every greatest climax of Season 4. After leaving the series, Jack surprised audiences by almost disappearing from the screen for many years to focus on academia and theater, before returning with new projects such as The Sandman and House of Guinness. His real life is almost entirely free of scandal, the complete opposite of his villainous image on screen. By 2026, Jack remains selective in his work, making the image of Joffrey even more legendary. What lingers forever is the choking sound in the Purple Hall the moment a tyrant falls and all Westeros begins sliding into hell. 10 faces, 10 destinies, but Season 4 has only one legacy, transforming Game of Thrones into the pinnacle of television storytelling. From the Purple Wedding to the Frozen Wall, every gaze, every drop of blood, and every betrayal still lives on like an unforgettable cinematic dream.